Greetings and salutations, everybody. We're back with another review here, a retro review, a little flashback, throwback, whatever you'd like to call it, going back to 1985 with The Return of the Living Dead. I have to admit, though, I kind of messed up a little bit when I was going to try to check this one out. I think of the word return, and I always think of that as a sequel. So initially, I'd queued up Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Got about 10 minutes in before I realized, I don't remember any of this. Where's the dancing gang member? Who's that kid? Who are these guys? Isn't there supposed to be like a medical supply place? Or I just remembered none of it. And then I realized, yeah, that's a sequel, the one that I didn't like as much. So tracked down just the original Return of the Living Dead. And this movie is really dumb. Now, I mean that in the best way, though. And I've mentioned that kind of phrasing before. It's dumb, but I mean that in a good way. So first, per usual, let's just get into one of the, a synopsis that I could track down, which states, when two bumbling employees at a medical supply warehouse accidentally release a deadly gas into the air, the vapors cause the dead to rise again as zombies. Okay, yeah, I really need to go somewhere besides IMDb from now on for my synopsis, because it's always pretty light, doesn't really go into as much detail as I would like, so I'll put a little bit more detail without going into too much spoilers here. There might be a little bit, but it's an old movie. Should have seen it by now. Anyways, yes, two bumbling guys working at a medical supply place called Oneida Medical Supplies, to be exact. The old guy is training the the new young guy, and he's showing him around the place, explaining the ins and outs of this business. And they come across some old junk in storage, one item being a barrel with a zombie inside. Now, for them, they just see it as there's some spooky dead body inside this barrel that belonged to the U.S. government. But the container ruptures, lets out this gas into their faces. They get knocked out for a while. They wake back up. And some of the medical supplies, such as like bisected dogs and a corpse for medical school, start coming to life. So now they got the zombie issue because they can't kill this body. They got it all wrapped up and everything, but it's not dying. So they have to go next door to a mortician, have him swear to some secrecy here, and help them dispose of the corpse by burning it up. Which, of course, it burns it, releases all the smoke and gas from that burning into the air, goes up into the clouds, and now it's raining down into this cemetery. And now we have zombies, so good choice there. So before we move on, let's also mention the fact that this young kid that's being trained has some friends, that are out and about kind of trying to track him down. They're looking for something to do, so they decide to head over to meet up with him for when he gets off of work at this new job of his. Now, these are stereotypical 80s, film punk rocker kind of gang members, the stereotypical, except for the fact that one of them seems to have a thing for taking off all of her clothes and dancing around, which of course made for a very memorable scene or two, dancing on top of a grave, getting hit with this tainted rain stuff coming down and having to fend for herself while fully exposed and vulnerable as these zombies are breaking out of the ground. So there we are. A leak caused a problem. A resolution made things worse. Throw in the old man and young kid having been hit with that gas as well. They're kind of getting sicker and sicker, almost like becoming zombies. So we got the zombies and this big storm trapping everybody in this situation so they can't just easily get out of it. And they made a call to a number that was on the barrel, which, yes, I did actually dial it, and I think it's some sort of survey thing now. But anyways, yeah, there's a little number on there from the government saying, if you find this barrel, contact these people. It's important and dangerous and all that kind of stuff. So, looking back, I have a lot of fond memories of watching this movie. It may or may not have to, due in part to some of that gravetop dancing, but mainly I think it's because this one is so fun, and it's just this dumb 80s zombie fun. The jump scares work. The sense of being trapped is very well implemented. The characters are written well. They're written well enough for you to, kind of keep track of who's who and actually care if one of them gets killed. And the effects are absolutely great. All the physical effects that they were using back in the 80s for these zombies. So with those effects, we not only have this classic tar zombie, as some call it, just this really messy, gooey, creepy zombie whose image has lived on in a lot of merchandise. But also the zombie designs themselves and those kills in general work really well. And on top of all that, another reason why I think this really resonated with me is because of the humor. You can't take anything about this film too seriously. I feel like it's 70% humor and only 30% actually trying to be a scary horror film. And finally, they added or at least brought to attention a bit more into this zombie mythology and giving some details as to what's going on in the body as somebody dies and as they become zombified, I guess might be the term, as well as why the zombies want brains. Now, this isn't going overboard, like trying too hard to legitimize everything and make it too believable, but it's just giving enough of that extra depth that kind of makes a movie just a little bit more interesting than some of the other zombie movies. Now, the only critique I could even come up with would be similar to the one that I gave for The Call, which is the video I did before this, if you want to check that out, is that the ending seemed a little bit rushed and a little bit too simple. You know, now this is where I'm going to hold off a little bit on letting out any spoilers, but let's just say that by the time we get to the end, this movie seemed to follow a common 80s trope and use it to throw in this really quick ending that doesn't really feel, you know, well earned. You know, and it sets it up for having those sequels. I believe they made 2 follow-ups for this. But that really doesn't negatively affect this film that much at all, having that little rushed ending. I mean, after all, it's only the last 5 minutes that one may think, it's an all right ending. But everything else is so much fun that you just think, you know, this is a lot of stupid, gory fun, and I enjoyed it. Fully endorse it. Let's try it at once. So anyways, my rating for this, I'm going to give it a solid B, just because the ending knocked down a little bit, but everything else was so much more fun than whatever that ending was that, you know, I highly recommend this one. I think as of when this video is being made, it's currently available on HBO Max, so head on over and check it out. And speaking of checking out, thank you for checking out my video. Be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share this around, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.